ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name's Marissa and today I'm going to be doing the second half of my January 2021 wrap-up. So total for the month of January I read 18 books. 10 of them were physical, 7 of them were audiobooks, and 1 of them was an ebook. So I read a total of 6,696 pages. So overall I think I did pretty good at bouncing back from 2020's year-end book reading slump. So yeah. Let's get into talking about the books that I read in the second half of the month. So the first one was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and that is by Grady Hendrix. So interestingly enough, I went into this book kind of thinking it was going to be like a fluffy contemporary, maybe a joke satire book. It was scary. It was disgusting. I did think it was pretty good because honestly it was more about the main female characters and their families and kind of like navigating this life of being stuck between their husbands and the real world, and they were still kind of treated like these 1950s housewives, which was interesting. So the vampire thing really didn't come in until like halfway through the book, where this guy really started to like screw up their lives. The main character was being gaslighted. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. And I have to tell you, one of the most disgusting scenes in this entire book, and this like, oh god, this just, it grossed me out. It creeped me out. It was nasty. So at one point, this woman is basically hiding from the vampire, and she is trying to lay as still as she can under this like mound of blankets, and a fucking cockroach crawls into her ear, and she's describing how she feels it like start wiggling into her ear, and she can't do anything about it because if she moves, this guy's gonna catch her. And it was just like, oh god, it was so gross, just disgusting. So honestly, I would recommend skipping past that part because it was blech. So anyway, that was that book. So the next one was a Forged by Benedict Jacka, and that is the 11th book, I believe, in the Alex Verus series. Short and sweet like they all are. It shows Alex going more towards the dark side. He's more willing to kill first and ask questions later. So I think it's a big transition book for his character as far as that goes, into he's not such a good guy anymore, even though he's just trying to protect himself, but now he's more than willing to use any means necessary. So I did think it is an interesting continuation. Of course, you know, they all leave off on these cliffhangers, so the next book is just going to be another one. So the next book that I ended up reading was the second book in the series, and that is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. And honestly, I'm just going to say it right now, I hated this. I absolutely hated it. I remember distinctly liking the first book, which was Serpent and Dove, and it was about this witch who ends up being forced to marry this witch hunter, and you know, their relationship grows, and then, you know, a whole bunch of drama happens at the end. This book picks up right where the other one left off. This group of people is all stranded out in the woods, and they're trying to make allies to fight these really bad witches. This book was so boring. Honestly, I don't even know why I continued reading it and why I followed through with the whole thing. Yeah, I definitely will not be continuing on with this series. I was completely bored with it. The characters felt very one-dimensional. The plot just felt forced. So yeah, honestly, I'm not going on in this series. So the next book that I ended up picking up was Dead Things by Blackmoore. And this is a book that is all about this necromancer. This guy, he has necromantic powers, and he is basically going back to his hometown because his sister was brutally murdered, and he had left his hometown like 15 years earlier because he killed the person who killed his parents, and the person who killed his parents was like this big mob boss. So he basically threatened his whole family and said, you know, I already killed the rest of his gang threatened him, saying that, you know, this dude killed your family, yes, but you still have family left, so we'll kill them all if you don't leave. So anyway, now that his sister has been brutally murdered, he's coming back to town to try and figure out what is going on. So I thought this was interesting. It was a very short book. All the books in this series are very short, but they're very intriguing. They pack a lot of punch. They're very fast-paced. So I enjoyed them so far. I don't think I would read it in a physical format, but listening to it on audiobook was definitely an experience. And the audiobook is like a full-on movie, like sound effects, like 16 different characters being voiced by different people. And I mean, they describe it like a movie in your head, and it really is, but sometimes not the best thing to listen to when you're driving, because like the crunch of car crashes and the sirens from the police and the ambulance is kind of disconcerting. There were a few times where I was like, is there a cop behind me? Like I had to stop and check just because. So yeah, that does get a little overwhelming when you're driving. I think it'd be fine if you were sitting at home or something, but yeah. So anyway, the next one is the next book in that series, and it's called Broken Souls, also by Stephen Blackmoore. So again, continuation of that, can't say too much. So the next one is called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, The Hunt for the Golden State Killer, and that is by Michelle McNamara. Unfortunately, Michelle McNamara actually passed away before she finished this book, so this book was finished by a close friend of hers. Basically, Michelle McNamara was kind of a stay-at-home mom, I guess, and she decided to start digging into finding who she named the Golden State Killer, but it was the East Area Rapist. He was really, really prolific in the California area, and he ended up raping a lot of women and eventually starting to kill them as well. And he had never been found. I mean, decades and decades had passed. He had stopped raping and killing people, and she just got sucked into this case. And she kind of kept this case going in the minds of some of the police detectives, and there was a lot of people that she got help from online, and eventually, I think it was shortly after her death, they did end up finally catching the guy who did it. So I just thought this was a really interesting book. There were a lot of boring parts. There was a lot of parts where she starts to go into other serial killers in there that didn't have anything to do with the Golden State Killer, but it was like, for a little bit of context, just kind of showing how he's similar and also different from these other ones. But yeah, I did find a lot of those parts pretty boring, but overall it's a really good read. I ended up listening to it on audiobook, and I think that was the ideal way for me to listen to it. So the next book that I ended up picking up was The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, and this book, honestly, I could not tell you what the plot is so far. I'm on the second book and I couldn't tell you really what the plot is, but basically it is following the paths of like 3 or 4 different people. So each chapter is from a point of view of a different character, and it kind of rotates back and forth between these 4 people. And so basically you kind of see them all converging and coming together and picking up these essential people to their mission along the way, although we really don't know what that mission is yet. I've heard that we really don't find it out until the 3rd book. So this book does get kind of boring at parts, because you're like, okay, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. It just, something's going on, and we're seeing all these people kind of converge on this one city. So it's intriguing so far, but it can be a little bit boring. So then the last one that I finished in the month of January, and finally, that is a book 2 in the Kingkiller Chronicles, and that is The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. It took me, I believe I started this book back in November of 2020, maybe even earlier, and it took me this long to read it because it was a 1,000-page book. It was an ebook, and you guys know I've said it before, I only read ebooks like in bed at night right before I'm going to sleep. Sometimes I can only make it 10 pages before I completely conk out. But yeah, I finally finished this book. It was really good. I have heard people say that they think this book suffers from middle child syndrome, or they don't think that it progresses enough to finish the story off in the 3rd book, which has yet to come out yet. But honestly, I enjoyed it. I love following Kavoth so much, and his antics and his sense of humor and the things that he goes through. It really hits home for me, and when he's hurting, I'm hurting. It's just like, I just connect with his character so much, and I really enjoyed this book. I would say it doesn't really have so many of the down depressing parts like the first book had, which I thought was kind of nice, but you kind of do see him get, you do kind of see him succeed a little bit more in this book, which I really enjoy. So anyway, the next thing I want to do is do a little screen recording of my computer and show you guys the platform that I'm using now instead of Goodreads. It's called the Storygraph, and I will show you why. So here is the Storygraph. This is what I started using instead of using Goodreads, and I really like it, not only for the beautiful graphics that it has and the simplicity of it over Goodreads, because we all know Goodreads is cluttered with ads. It's an Amazon product, you know, it's chock full of that. So I decided to go to the Storygraph after I saw it on another booktuber's video, and I really, really enjoy it so far. So one of the main things that I really like about it is this reading statistics. So you can see on the screen right now, I'm actually looking at my January 2021, and it's got up here, it has my reading goals, 150 books for the year and 60,000 pages, which I kind of just guesstimated on the page count. So anyway, that's where we're at. So right now I'm ahead by 3 books, and I'm ahead by 780 pages, which is awesome. So then down a little bit farther, this goes into depth and shows a pie chart. These are all the moods that I've read in the month of January. So of course you can see the biggest one is adventurous. The next one is dark, mysterious, funny, tense, reflective, lighthearted, informative, emotional, and challenging. This is one of the big things that I really love about the Storygraph is because it gives you the moods for these books, which, you know, we all talk about being mood readers, but this is the epitome of what mood reading means. This means choosing a book based on its mood, and I absolutely love that about this platform, that is what it's based on. So the next one is pacing. So fast books are the majority of mine because I love a fast-paced book, and then slow, and then medium, which I don't know how I got there, that slow is higher than medium, but whatever. So the next one is page numbers. So less than 300 page books is just a little bit above the 300 to 499, and then the 500 plus is down there, which is about normal for me. So fiction, I had 16 books, and nonfiction, I had 2. I don't know which books were nonfiction. That's interesting. Can I click on it and actually see it? Oh, yes, I can. Oh, look at that. 2 nonfiction books, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and Sorry Not Sorry. Interesting. I did not know that. Okay, good to know. So that's another cool feature that I just now discovered right on video. So anyway, so then down here it shows you the genres, which is nice. So fantasy being the overwhelming number, then sci-fi, young adult, memoir, biography, true crime, thriller, romance, mystery, horror, crime, contemporary, autobiography. Whew, buddy, I read a mishmash of books this month. I mean, those are all like the value of 1, 2, 5, and then 8. So interesting. And then right here, this is a graph that shows you it's going to show me over the whole year of my reading pages and number of books read, which is pretty stinking cool. I love the statistics, and I love that I didn't have to actually make my own, that the Storygraph does it for me. And then this one, it shows me all of my star ratings. So the majority, I ended up giving 3 stars. There's a bunch of 5 stars too, but there's some that do fall in the middle. Oh, that is another good feature of this, is that you can give half stars, quarter stars, whatever. So you don't just have to rate a book 3 or 4 stars. You can rate it 3.5 or 3.75, whereas Goodreads, you can't. So yet another great feature of the Storygraph. So anyway, that is all for my stats page on here. I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching my video. I upload every Wednesday and Saturday, and I would really love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe my videos. Have a great day.